Population of the state was 6 million. Today, our state population is over 21 million. We're now the third largest state in the nation behind California and Texas. The regional population at the time was less than 250,000, 225,000, and I mentioned earlier that our current population is over 500,000. The county population here was 13,000, and your population today is over 19,000. President was Richard Nixon, and our governor was Claude Clark Jr. Some significant events. 1969, it was the year that construction began on Walt Disney World. The year Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, and the jumbo jet, the Boeing 747, took its first inaugural flight. In the economy, you can buy a gallon of gas for 32 cents. Not $3.32, but 32 cents for a gallon of gas. You get a loaf of bread for less than a quarter. A gallon of milk costs you about $1. You buy yourself a brand new automobile for $2,000. Brand new car, $2,000. Average income was $6,500, and the new house would have cost you $40,000. In the world of entertainment and sports, the best picture for the Oscar was Midnight Cowboy. The best song, the Grammy, was Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine In by The Fifth Dimension. And in the sports world, it was clearly the year of the underdog. The World Series, the newly expansion team, the New York Mets, referred to as the Miracle Mets, a very young team, defeated the more experienced and heavily favored Baltimore Orioles in 5 games. And then Super Bowl III, the underdog New York Jets defeated the heavily favored Baltimore Colts by a score of 17-6. So we'll review now some of those projects decade by decade. During our first decade, our first couple of projects focused in the Gainesville urban area on transportation and stormwater. We assisted one of the rural counties prepare and adopt their first local government comprehensive plan. We filed our first community development block grant application, received that designation from the U.S. Department of Commerce as an economic development district. The council adopted its first regional plan in that first decade, and also started providing services for transportation planning to the metropolitan area of Gainesville. In our second decade, we adopted our first overall economic development program to diversify the region's economy, completed a research study on feasibility for a research and development park, which led to the development of the Progress Center Research Park in the city of Alachua. At that time, the state legislature was considering designating the floodplain of the Suwannee River and its tributaries as an area of critical state concern. If that had occurred, your local land development regulations in those floodplains would have been subject to state review and approval. Your local ordinances, not your comprehensive plan, but your land development code related to development along the river would have been subject to state approval. In response to that, the council formed the Suwannee River Committee, made up of commissioners from all the counties along the river, developed a model ordinance to protect the riverbank from removal of vegetation and a setback for construction. Every county adopted an ordinance, including Madison County, and as a result of that, the state chose not to designate the area of critical state concern and left that control in the local elected officials. We completed our first regional inland health shelter study, worked with Dixie and Taylor County and some coastal mitigation projects, completed a commercial revitalization study in Gainesville. Also at the time, it's time that you just had a discussion about solid waste. The state adopted legislation requiring counties to have lined landfills. Prior to that, as many of you know, landfills were unlined. There's considerable leachate, chemicals and other fluids into the aquifer, and this was going to result in a significant cost, particularly for small rural counties. So the council formed a task force, worked with the consultant, developed a regional master plan for solid waste management. Our original objective was to see if we could use economies of scale and have one regional landfill for all 11 counties in Jefferson County. One of our neighbors to the west participated, so for those 12 counties to have a single landfill. We didn't quite get there, but we were successful, and we have several multi-county landfills. The one that you use in Osceola landfill over in Jefferson County serves 4 of the western counties. The New River landfill in Union County serves 5 of the eastern counties. That's the next slide. Okay. That's okay. In our third quarter, we became involved with the workforce program. Today it's known as Career Source. At the time, it was the Job Training Partnership Act. We served as the administrator, worked with the Private Industry Council and local employers in providing on-the-job training for individuals until that program was reorganized into its current Career Source structure. Began working with that local emergency planning committee. Also at that time formed the original Florida Tourism Task Force to promote our region for ecotourism, cultural-based tourism, and heritage-based tourism. We continue to provide staff service to that organization today. Each county, Madison County is a participating member and very active. Your The representatives on that task force is Phyllis Williams with your chamber and Tourist Development Council, and newly appointed recent members Jackie Blunt as well. Also received a designation to serve as a planning agency, provide new service plans, and work with the Coordinating Board for Transportation Disadvantage. Began providing the annual planning services related to the 1985 Growth Management Act, and it's a service we provided here in Madison County before you develop capacity and now have your own staff. Also completed our first comprehensive economic development strategy, which was the successor to that overall economic development plan previously adopted. Also in this decade, the citizens of the state, by referendum, adopted into the state constitution a prohibition on net fishing, which had a devastating economic impact on our coastal counties, Dixie and Taylor, as well as Levy County, our neighbor to the south. Council formed the Big Bend Tri-County Task Force, made up of elected officials and fishermen from those counties, worked with them for several years, helped them get organized and start the now very successful and prosperous clam farming industry along our Gulf Coast. And also completed local mitigation strategies for a number of counties, including Madison. In our fourth decade, Council formed the North Central Florida Regional Hazardous Materials Response Team for fire rescue departments to work together to respond to hazardous material incidents in the region. Also, there was a recommendation coming out of the Tampa Bay area to the legislature to establish a state water board. This would have been an appointed body which would have had the authority to make decisions about transferring water between water-rich areas like North Florida to water-poor areas like Tampa Bay and South Florida. The council evaluated that proposal, identified the adverse economic and environmental impacts, helped organize some opposition, and as a result of that, the legislature did not enact that proposal, and to today, those decisions are made on a regional basis by the 5 regional water management districts. Also began providing an economic impact modeling I mentioned earlier. The council at that time formed the I-75 Corridor Council to work with the Department of Transportation to enhance landscaping at the interchanges on I-75 and provide enhanced wayfinding signage. If you notice, the last few decades, most of those now have been implemented at the interchanges, as well as the new welcome sign into the state of Florida, the Georgia border. In our most recent decade, the teens, after the storms in 04 and 05 that impacted our region, the council completed a regional economic and disaster resiliency study to evaluate the impact on structure damage and its ad valorem impacts of diminishing ad valorem revenue and the amount of time it would take to recover and resources needed to meet that recovery needs. In concert with other councils around the state, we completed the first statewide evacuation study, which received a number of national awards and recognized as a best practice leading approach for hurricane evacuation. Also, working with our partners around the state and the other councils, completed a statewide coordinated economic development strategies, working with the Florida Chamber Foundation, utilizing their 6 pillars for securing Florida's future economy. And then more recently, with the opening of the new Sable Trail natural gas transmission pipeline through our region and the existing Florida natural gas pipeline, which traverses our region, working with the U.S. Department of Transportation, that emergency response team, providing training for first responders for possible incidents at compressor stations and other locations along those 2 transmission lines. And our most recent initiative just started last fall in response to requests from this board for the council to convene the counties along the Swanee River Valley to address the ongoing issue with raw sewage spills by the city of Valdosta. The council formed a task force made up of 12 county commissioners in each of the county. Commissioner Davis is serving as chair of that task force and providing outstanding leadership to address this issue. They've been meeting for the past several months, adopted a resolution concerning the matter, have reached out to our state and federal delegation. Commissioner Davis testified before the Florida Senate Committee on Environment and Natural Resources a few weeks ago in Tallahassee to brief them on the issue and ask for their support and assistance. We've gotten support from our federal delegation, our U.S. senators and their staff, and we have a meeting scheduled this evening with the City of Valdosta City Council, and the county commissioners on the task force will be traveling up to Valdosta tonight to have a public workshop to sit down with them and discuss this ongoing issue and the concerns that we have for its adverse public health issue of folks coming in contact with the water when it's contaminated, the impact on the environment, and the economic impact and the adverse image it creates for our tourism promotion marketing for using it in the rivers. And they're working at it. They recognize the problem. They're under consent order with the state of Georgia. They've spent a bunch of money already, over $100 million, to build a new treatment plant. Their old plant was in the floodplain. This new plant's a 1.5 miles from the river. But they continue to have problems. There were 4 spills last year, a fairly significant one just in December. Their biggest issue now is their infiltration of their collection system. They have plans to spend another $60 million over the next 10 years. But the commissioners on the task force want to bring to their attention the adverse impact it's having on our region and our citizens, and to encourage them to pick up their pace. We need this problem solved sooner than later, and can't live with it for another 10 years. It's going on for over 10 years already. So over the past 50 years, the council's had 3 executive directors, 39 chairs, 2 of those from Madison County. Former Commissioner Ellis served as chair of the council, and Commissioner Davis is a past chair of the council as well. And 396 elected officials and gubernatorial appointees have served on the Regional Planning Council over the past 5 decades. We accomplished all this with a very dedicated staff. This is our senior management team. And the next slide are the really important folks. These are the administrative support staff, the project managers and planners that make all this good work happen throughout our region. So in summary, Mr. Chair, we're very excited and proud to be celebrating our 50th anniversary. We're part of a statewide network of 10 councils. We're made up of 2/3 elected officials, 1/3 gubernatorial appointees on our board. We're a planning, coordinating, facilitating, convening organization, as you can see, for the projects and initiatives we've been involved in over the past 5 decades. We're not a regulatory agency. We don't issue any permits. We can't make anyone do anything. We can't prohibit anyone from doing anything. We like to say we have the power of persuasion of good ideas. And our program and portfolio is very diversified, ranging from regional activities to public safety to economic development, transportation, and local government assistance. Mr. Chair, that concludes my overview of the council and review of some of the significant projects we've been engaged in and working with the county over the past 50 years. At this time, we ask for your respectful consideration to issue a proclamation to declare May 7, 2019 as North Central Florida Regional Planning Council Day in Madison County.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Passed 5-0. Mr. Coons, you left out one important thing on 1969, 50 years. I left Gainesville, Florida in 1969 to go to Florida State University, become a junior in criminology, and had to attend school with Wetzel Blair. And it was my last year of being single.
Let's go to that. Let's go to that.
If I would, just Scott, I know you're the 3rd executive director, but you've been there how many years?
I've been with the Regional Planning Council since 1976, 43 years. I've lived most of these projects.
That's why I